Yes, what a fucking movie that was. You ever watched a movie and you felt like taking a cigarette after because you were just like, ah, oh, that was perfect. I don't even smoke and I was like, I need a cigarette. Hey everyone, welcome to Top Gun's review, Top Gun Maverick. Confession, I was never a big fan of the original Top Gun. Now don't get your pitchforks out. I feel like a lot of people actually weren't big fans of the original Top Gun. For a few reasons. The original Top Gun, it's 80s schlock, really. I mean, other than some brief, awesome moments, watching the film now, honestly, I am still shocked at the shots that they managed to do and the way they covered the aerial combat back then for 1986. I actually resonated more with hot shots, you know, back when parody movies were actually funny and not whatever the hell they are now. Whereas this Top Gun Maverick, oh boy, this film is like everything I've wanted from a simple blockbuster film. It's got the effects, it's got the spectacle, it's got the awe, it's got the characters that you care about, it's got the emotional investments, the emotional beats, the setups that pay off. It's not sequel bait. It doesn't feel like you need to watch 10 million other films to understand it. It's not virtue signaling. It's not a bunch of political crap. It's simply, here it is. This is the story. A simple character going on a simple journey with some awesome special effects thrown in, practical effects, and a total lack of green screen and CGI. That's all I wanted, and this film delivered it. Tom Cruise manages to pull off the impossible. He managed to hook me in to see a sequel to a film that originally was filmed 30 years ago, a film I had no interest in, did not care about, and I managed to not only want to go see the sequel thanks to the brilliant trailer, but I also loved the sequel and appreciated the sequel. This film does what Terminator 2 does to Terminator 1. It improves vastly on every flaw that was in the original. Other than one minute detail, this film is perfect. You've got practical jets, you've got real life jets, you've got actors that are actually sitting in the cockpit of these fighter jets that are vibrating and they're taking off. The sound design makes you feel immersed in everything that's happening. Every dogfight in this movie feels like you were there. This was one of those films that I knew watching the trailers, I had to watch it in the cinema. I felt it with Everything Everywhere All at Once, and I felt it again here. It carries over everything from the original. Even though I wasn't a big fan of the original, when I watched the original back the second time for the purpose of watching Top Gun Maverick, I felt immediately that this film set up and reassured me that this was the same character. You wouldn't even think there was like a 30-year age gap between movies. I feel like in a lot of sequels, they lose sight of the main character in favor for new characters that they want to develop. But this film quickly establishes this is Maverick's film. And it's good too, because we're simply joining Maverick for his character arc. He needs to confront his past. He needs to confront the death of Goose in the original film, which is awesome because I actually felt more connected and like Goose's death was more significant in this film than it was in Top Gun 1 when the actual death happened. It had more of a purpose. It leads to more conflict in this film. The other great thing is the new cast of characters are awesome. You got Miles Teller, who looks like Goose. He looks like he could definitely be Goose's son. When you see him, you feel this emotional connection to him, this investment, because you're like, oh my God, that 100%, that is Goose's son. It helps you believe in the weight of what the characters are going through, in Maverick's responsibility to look after Rooster. I definitely feel you need to watch the original before you watch this film to really grasp what's going on. It would be a disservice to not do that. What else? What else? You know, you got Jennifer Connelly in there. She's always great as well. Haven't got a lot to say about her. Every time there's a dogfight, every time they're in the sky, in the air, everything is fun and just has that feeling. When Maverick is in the big black jet and he's pushing to see how fast he can push this jet, it's awesome. It's just so much fun. It's not trying to overcomplicate or try and accomplish too many things at once. After seeing Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, that was my last review, which you can check out. One of the things that was apparent to me watching that film and then this film is it has a clear path of where it wants to go, what it wants to achieve, who's the main character, what's their main lesson. That film, I had no idea who the main character was. Wanda could have been the main character for all I know. What the lessons were, none of that. The other thing is that this film feels personal for Tom because it's also commenting on getting older, what it's like. There's lots of comparisons with the dialogue. You can tell for Tom this resonates because as he's getting older, he's like 60 something. There's a feeling of, oh, your time has come, old man. It's time for the new and improved, the new generation to step up. And there's actually a line of dialogue which I feel is very close to home where Tom Cruise's character actually says to one of the generals, like, look, my time will come, but not today. And I felt like that was him saying to Hollywood, my time will come, but not today, man. Even if I keep doing this shit till I die, I'm gonna do it. And I appreciate that. I respect that, man. I mean, Tom Cruise is insane. The stuff he does in these films, it's insane. I don't know any actors that do this stuff to the degree that Tom does. No way. The other thing I really enjoyed, well, there were little subtle things that I enjoyed. For example, there's a female fighter. It's not like it hammers down the point to you like, she's a female pilot, and she's also the best one. She smashes all the guys. She can military press the dudes and fucking beat the shit out of them. We see the female pilot and we just think to ourselves, awesome, that's very inclusive. It's good to see a female pilot because in the original, they didn't have one. Everything's done tastefully without trying to hammer down a message, which is very refreshing and unfortunately is incredibly rare nowadays with Hollywood films. But there's not an over-reliance on the original either. This film isn't like other sequels where they completely copy the exact same crap that was done in the original. Is there a climactic dogfight at the end of the film? Yes. But as far as everything else, no. For me personally, with sequels, especially comedy sequels, they will take the exact same idea and just do it in the sequel, but change little things and be like, it's different, For example, Zoolander 2, they would take the joke of Zoolander being a merman in an advertisement. They do it in the sequel, but now he's a half man, half cow. It's like, yuck, that's so just dumb and lazy. I didn't feel that with Top Gun. I never felt anything was lazy. I felt the cinematography, the look of the film evolved from the original. The only thing that I was like, they took that from the original was maybe the football fight. But in this film, it's used perfectly for pacing to add levity as they prepare for the climax of the film. It was fun. Yeah, Kenny Loggins soundtrack. Speaking of soundtracks, the soundtrack in this film is awesome. You got Lady Gaga, you got new artists in here. They're doing different things. They're not trying to take the exact same stuff from the original. They take the music score, that famous kind of opening from the original Top Gun. They keep that. I guess it represents as a whole what this film is doing is it's evolving, but yet not taking on the cliches and tropes of modern cinema. And honestly, as I've reviewed most of the big films that have come out in this first half of the year, I can honestly say that Top Gun 2 is one of the best films I watched this year. Now, this film isn't perfect though. If there was one thing I could improve, I'd say the love interest, the whole love interest with Jennifer Connelly feels ham-fisted into the film. The way the actors, the characters are talking about it is like, oh, we've got this history from 20 years ago when we met up. But you feel like you don't care. Jennifer Connelly's character was just written in for the sake of it. She doesn't really add anything to the story. Honestly, you could take her out. The way to improve that would have been to bring back Kelly McGillis. But unfortunately, Kelly McGillis actually said in an interview in 2019 that she feels she looks fat and ugly and she just doesn't look right for Hollywood standards, which I think is bullshit. I think they totally should have brought Kelly back. Her character has that history with Maverick. So that was the one kind of thing that I just didn't, it didn't feel right. Everything else in this film is so perfect. It's like when one thing seems a little bit off, it's under a magnifying glass because of that. Is it serviceable? Yeah, and it has some fun moments. The two actors have some great chemistry, but they come across more like friends than actual lovers. Whereas the original film, I felt nailed the sexual chemistry and the tension between Charlie and Maverick. There was a purpose there. They were defying stereotypes and tropes, and they weren't following those same cliches of 80s films, which was something that my partner actually brought up to me when we watched the first Top Gun. She was like, wow, this woman's actually strong, independent. She's a higher ranking officer in Top Gun in that world, but their relationship isn't as typical. Like, it's not following those tropes. That was the most unique part of the original Top Gun for me, honestly, was their relationship. But here, it just feels like an afterthought. It feels like it's put in for the sake of it, for us to be like, well, of course Maverick's got to have some kind of love interest because it's Tom Cruise and he's still good looking and rah, rah, rah. But it's fine. It's not a make it or break it. So, other than that, I have to give Top Gun Maverick 4.5 out of 5. Top Gun Maverick is everything that you would want from a huge legacy sequel, pays respect to the original, but evolves and improves on all the flaws of the original film other than what I just mentioned. But the sheer spectacle of seeing these fighter jets, of seeing these dogfights and actually understanding what is happening, whereas in the original, it was a bit all over the place. It's so awesome. And the simple character arc, seeing the characters grow and evolve throughout the film was amazing. And it just proves that Tom Cruise is still at the top of his game and hasn't slowed down at all. The guy defies age. If you liked this video, please give me a like and subscribe. What did you think of Top Gun Maverick? Give me your thoughts on the film. Did you feel like it lived up to the original? Did you not like the original and you actually preferred this film? Did you feel like Top Gun Maverick improved on the original in every way possible? And what other films are you excited to see with the next, I guess, second half of this year? And also, if you enjoyed this video and you want to hear more, you can actually check out my podcast that I actually did with my lovely partner, where we went into detail reviewing Top Gun Maverick. For now, it's time to fly solo.